Hey guys, welcome to this next lecture in the lighting setup for this course. We're going to go over point lamps in this section. So let's go ahead and add a lamp. We are back at the default scene with this fire hydrant. I'm going to add point lamp in. Again, it's going to put it at the origin, so I'm going to move this up. And let's do what we always do. Let's pop in and render it without changing anything. So this is what you're going to get. Now, point lamps occupy a single point in space, and then they emit light rays in all directions from that point. So most lamps with a bulb are great examples of a point lamp, and the simplest example being your common household light bulb that fits into your living room fan or lamps that are sitting on your coffee table. So up until now, we've talked about lights that they naturally exist within our environments. Point lamps, along with the spot and area lamps, which we'll cover next, are usually only found in man-made lights. And because of this, the characteristics of the lights and their shadows that they cast change. So let's get into the point lamp. So as you can see, lighting is pretty harsh right now. We've got an overhead light directly coming from above, hitting all the areas that are pointed to the top of our scene, and they're being illuminated, and then everything under those with really sharp fall off are being completely cast in black. Now again, there's no cast shadows here yet. We got to turn those on, but as you can see, everything that's under something is pretty much left with all black shading. All right, let's get into the settings for the point lamp. So right away, you see we've got the same settings as you're used to here for the other lamps we've talked about. We've got color and we've got energy. So if we change the color, make it something a little more yellow, like we're used to seeing from a light bulb. Gonna quickly get that. Let's go a little more orange. Okay, so we get energy set to 1, and again, you see your specular and diffuse settings, so you can turn those off or on as you need to. All right, let's talk about fall off. The fall off is a great example of how we can affect how far this light affects things within the scene. So you got to remember, sun lamps and hemisphere lamps, they're almost infinite. You know, based on when they hit the earth at a certain time, we get a certain amount of light, but those lights don't change intensity. Our perspective changes intensity of how those lights affect us. So it's not the same with man-made lights. Man-made lights are different intensities. And because of that, they can't light everything. They have a certain amount of light they can reach to within a scene, and then they just stop working. They fall off. So let's talk about this. Distance is basically what you're going to use to change how far the lamp can affect things in the scene. So if I crank this down and we re-render, you can already see this is getting a lot dimmer. And I'm not changing the energy. The energy output is the same. It's how far does the lamp affect things, and that's what I'm changing. So you know, if you get a really powerful light, even if you crank this up to 3, you render, you're going to get nice bright lights, but then you're going to have a fall off that's pretty harsh with other stuff in the scene. And this is really made a lot more apparent when you have stuff that fills the scene, and you can really get a feel for, you know, how far a light is going. So let's turn this back to something lower. Change this back to 1. Okay, there we go. Let's change this up a little bit. All right, so that's pretty decent. So let's talk about a little bit about shadowing with the point lamp. So if we click on ray shadow, you're going to see pretty much the same settings that we saw before for the sun lamp. The difference is going to be how those shadows are actually cast. So I'm going to change this to something a little brighter like we did before, and then I'm just going to go ahead and render, and let's see what happens. Okay, now remember, this light is directly above us, and so right now we're getting pretty, you know, harsh fall off here with the shadows, and we're definitely getting cast shadows, but they're pretty harsh. And so let's do this. Let's crank the samples up to at least 6, re-render. It's going to give us a little bit more realistic blur on the light here. And then let's change the soft size up to, I don't know, 1 and see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, we're getting a lot of really nice blur here, but it's got a lot of noise because we're using a low sample rate. Now point lights, unlike sunlights and hemi lights, it matters where you put them in the scene. So if I put this over here and re-render, you can see that drastically changes what we're looking at here. And automatically it kind of looks a lot better. So let's look at some of these settings here. Now we talked about upping this a little bit. That's not going to do much, but it will change some of the characteristics of things in here. So if you want to get more illumination, you got to change the angle or the placement of the light, and then where it's at. Now you're not going to really have rotation with a point lamp. Like I said, it occupies a single point in space, and it's like a light bulb. Even if you rotate a light bulb, I mean, what are you doing? You're not going to get any changes really within the scene. So really with a point light, it just matters where you put that. And if I put it right here on the ground and move it over, let's put it like right here and then render, you can see it's almost like we've just thrown a light bulb onto the ground and it's thrown it up, and it looks exactly, it's like a lamp has fallen over or something right here. There's the fall off I'm talking about. See, this lamp only goes out to here and then everything fades into shadow. So perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let's up this to 12, and again we'll take this back down a little bit, get some more harsh shadows in there, and a little bit of a different feel. Let's change this to another color, give it more of a warm fill for that shadow. And as you can see, instead of these being perfect black cast shadows, now we've got a little bit of a warm tint to some of these areas. Now, that's like really unrealistic. So what you'd want to do is take out a lot of that saturation and leave it sort of towards the white in the middle to kind of complement what you've got going on here. So you really want this color a little darker, and you can go more or less saturated depending on the kind of mood you want to set up for your scene. But that's pretty much it for point lights. That's kind of how they work. And if you're looking for something that's, you know, a lot like a light bulb or a lamp, then this is what I would use, because it's really good at that. And the shadows, depending on the mooding that you're going after, they're just beautiful. So in the next lecture, I'm going to cover settings for the spot lamp, and we're going to talk about how to get some different moods with that light. So I'll see you there.